sports briefing here on Friday, the 15th of May. Yes, we bring you start again. Your best way to start the day, up to date with all the news information here on New Zealand Sports Radio at 7 a.m. every single morning. And today in the news, we have Phoenix still not decided what to do with errant stars. Cricketers return to training. Premiership recommended titles should be stripped. And Warriors star concerned over major NRL rule changes. So let's dive straight into it with that, with the football update. And yes, it's been now nearly 2 months since Tim Payne and Oliver Sale went on broke their self-isolation rules over in Australia. And at the time, it was going to be dealt with or be investigated. The police have charged them with with Payne with drive middle range prescribed concentration of alcohol. So driving under the influence is at mid range at at 20 past 1 in the morning. Yes, clearly they were out and about very late at night when supposed to be self-isolating. The drink driving thing is still under investigation by police, but the Phoenix say they're still investigating what happened and have not concluded that, and so hence they cannot say anything yet. It's been 7 weeks now. Think about how quickly the NRL has dealt with these things. It's amazing how long this one is taking. Moving on then to cricket news, and England players will return to training next week. Bowlers will have staggered sessions at various county grounds with a coach, physio, and where possible strength and conditioning in attendance. And then other players will return to practice 2 weeks later. So it looks like, that the bowlers, who, let's be honest, have the most physical role in cricket, especially fast bowlers, are being brought back first and will work obviously in keeping small groups by the sounds of things. So slowly returning to play there in the cricket, and this follows up on news after brought yesterday of the potential of England joining Australia and New Zealand in some sort of tournament later this year within an Australasia or within a New Zealand Australia bubble. If travel demands between the two countries are reduced. Okay, hand you over now to Stephen, who will take us through the birthdays.
Thank you, Paul. And once again, good morning, everybody. And birthdays today: a dual Commonwealth Games gold medalist, a tough defender of New Zealand football, and finally a New Zealand Davis Cup representative. That's where we start. Daniel King Turner, born this day, 15th of May, 1984. Is a former professional tennis player from New Zealand. In total, he won 8 Futures singles titles, as well as 2 Challenger doubles titles and 10 Futures doubles titles. King, who turns 36 today, was a member of the New Zealand Davis Cup team between 2005 and 2013, competing in 19 ties and winning 24 of 41 rubbers. Daniel John Danny Hay, born this day, the 15th of May, 1975, is a retired New Zealand professional footballer who is currently the manager of the New Zealand national football team. Hay played as a central defender for English Premier League club Leeds United and National Soccer League side Perth Glory. Hay, who turns 45 today, played for the New Zealand All Whites between 1996 and 2007 and was capped on 31 occasions. And finally, Roger Quinton Randall, born this day on the 15th of May 1974 in Hastings, is a former New Zealand rugby union player who represented the All Blacks in 2001 and 2002. Randall, who turns 47 today, played for the Wellington Hurricanes and the Waikato Chiefs between 1998 and 2006 in Super Rugby. The speedy winger also represented the New Zealand Sevens rugby team, winning dual gold medals at both the 1998 Commonwealth Games in Kuala Lumpur and again in Manchester 4 years later. Randall has since moved into coaching, and that's birthdays for today. Back to you, Paul. You there, Paul?
Thank you very much. I was on mute there. Sorry, folks. Let's go back then. So in Belarusian Premier League, the Minsk versus Neiman Grodon has been postponed. I don't know. I have not been able to find out why. Sorry, folks. But Torpedo from Stephen in the Deep South team will be taking on Gorodea Stephen in the Far North team. So there's a big clash between your boys in that one. We'll bring you that result tomorrow morning. We then have games on Saturday night and Sunday night. So we'll bring you, obviously, we'll wrap it all up on Monday morning's show, but keep you up to date as the season or as the weekend goes through. Moving on to rugby news, and the Premiership in England has had the review that was taken by Lord Mines, ex member of the government, into how they should set up their, or how they should handle their salary cap going forwards. The recommendation is, yes, that some titles should be stripped, and they should, and also teams should face suspensions as well. Other recommendations in the overhaul include stronger investigatory powers, and making the Premiership Rugby club executives, players, and agents more accountable. So he goes on to say that, look, it should not be meant. It shouldn't be these updates or these changes should not be seen as a pick and mix. They're designed to be brought in all together and sort of back each other up. He did say he wasn't asked to comment on the actual level of the salary cap, but other measures that he did consider and rejected was including disciplinary hearings being held in public, the publication of player salaries, and further restrictions on salaries and image rights payments. So those pieces, he said he could bring it, he could suggest being brought in later, but he was convinced by clubs that these so-called more draconian measures were not necessary. If we look over to the States, where they do run very good or much more well-controlled salary caps, they do have all the salaries in the public domain. So interestingly, they decided not to go down that route. That gets you up to date on the rugby, and I'm going to hand you back now to Stephen for our rugby league update.
Thanks again, Paul, and hopefully I'm not on mute this time. We look at, first of all, Warriors star Blake Green concerned over a major NRL rule change. Green has revealed how the NRL ignored the advice of the game's senior coaches, players and referees in making major rule changes so close to the competition's restart. Green said it was difficult to predict how the game might look under the changes, but he appeared to hold concerns, particularly over the 6-again rule, which replaces ruck infringement penalties. The NRL has also scrapped the 2-referee system used since 2009, returning to the old days of one main man in the middle, assisted by the involved touch judges. The 33-year-old Green, who is at his 8th club, was part of a player advisory group consulted by the NRL. Asked for no changes they made, too, which shows how much I know, he said. The Warriors quarantine camp quarantine camp in Tamworth. Wade Graham and Daly Cherry Evans were our spokespeople. They formed into a group with Cooper Cronk as an ex-player, a couple of coaches, and Trent Robertson and Michael Maguire, a few refs. They discussed the changes. I received an email on Monday which outlined what they spoke about. Their preferred option was for those rules not to come into play and trial them in lower grades instead of reassesses from there. Players and coaches were all on the same page, but at the end of the day, the ARL Commission is making the decision. While Green said he had grown up under the one ref system, he would have to search out the 2012 All-Stars game where it was all trialled to get some idea of how the six-again rule influenced the match. ARL Commission Chairman Peter Valande said the changes will encourage free-flowing football, but Green said it might simply encourage more one-up running. We only got confirmation of this rule change this morning and had our first crack at it at training. It is a tough one to handle. The game keeps flowing and you end up making 16 or 17 tackles in a row. It's a tough ask. As we saw in the first two games of the season, the advantage is around the ruck and teams are just kicking the door down the middle. There weren't that many tries scored from expensive football. It could lead to a few more carries in the middle until the door falls over and you roll through that. And he cited match situations where he would definitely prefer a penalty from an opponent's ruck area. Coming out of your end 20 metres from the try line, you've done a good job defensively. I'd prefer to kick the ball 30 metres downfield and have an attacking mindset from a set piece. If it is 12 all and we were attacking the line and they are laying all over us, I'd prefer to have the 2 points from a penalty. So there you are. It's I hope that kind of explains the plays in and around those particular rules. And just in a little bit of sad news this morning, former Kiwis league player and West Coast icon Tony Cole has passed away. Cole, who played 30 tests for the Kiwis between 1972 and 1982, was captain of the national side at the 1977 Rugby League World Cup. He was inducted as a New Zealand Rugby League legend in 2007 and was a former Grey District Councillor. The second row was Kiwi number 503 and was considered one of the last homegrown West Coast Kiwis internationals. Close friend Tony Cockshawn, a former Grey District Mayor, said the pair were biking Wilderness Trail near Karoro on Thursday morning when Cole suffered a heart attack. Very, very sad news indeed, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the Cole whānau. And just finally, just a quick little update as well, as I have to look to my phone, and it's just in regards to anti-vaxxing. Of course, a bit of talk this week about Bryce Cartwright, but it seems as though the only player that's remaining to be vaxxed at this time is Brian Kelly. There's a little bit more information on Stuff News, and that's a whole lot of rugby league news for Friday the 15th of May. I hope you have a great day, and hey, look forward to the weekend coming up, and that's where I'll see you tomorrow morning. Back to you, Paul.
Hey, Ross, I think we've got that slightly wrong way around. I think Brian Kelly has agreed, and Bryce Cartwright is the only outstanding one there. But anyway, moving on from that, we had the budget here in New Zealand yesterday, and there was no talk of money for sport or recreation. They focused on five pillars: economic recovery, jobs, health, education, and housing. But New Zealand Sport says that there is money for sport. An announcement will be made over the coming days, and that's in addition to the short-term relief measures that have been unveiled over the last 2 months. So we'll look forward to see what money there is for sport and recreation to help out with grassroots and also high performance as well. Moving on then, and in the America's Cup, we've been talking about how well the AC 75s lift off into their foiling from American Magic. The trimmer there says that it's like taking off, whereas the Moth, Superfoil, GC32s and other foiling boats out there, it feels like you're struggling to get out of the water. So that's interesting. One of the things we're not going to see in this class that we've seen in previous sailing is the grinders and all the people running from side to side on the boat. They are set on their own sides, and the mainsail comes all the way down, so they can't see each other. So there was a lot of trust, he says, between the crew because if one side isn't ready for a maneuver and you start a maneuver on the other side, that could cause all sorts of or issues. Either the move won't happen or you could even crash. So yeah, a lot of trust and a lot of teamwork required on these boats, especially as we saw Luna Rosa put a photo of their boat jumping out of the water entirely and going up into the air. So there is some really yeah, these machines really are absolute beasts, and are going to be fun to watch, but also maybe quite dangerous as well. Over in Formula One, and the rumours that we had yesterday have been confirmed, that Carlos Sainz will be joining Ferrari, and Ricciardo will be moving to McLaren. So those moves have been confirmed. That just leaves that seat now at Renault left open. The question is, how will they fill that? Will they go for a younger driver? Will Vettel slot in there, or will Alonso come out of retirement and drive in that seat? So clearly, yeah. So the merry-go-round perhaps has been dealt with much quicker than we've seen in previous seasons. Over on the PGA Tour for golf, there are apparently 25 eligible players overseas at the moment. They will have to go through 14-day isolation if they would like to take part in that event. Not all of the golfers are going to head back for that. Some have already said that they won't, that they'll be staying at home and not traveling over to the States. It does cause some questions for players as to, yeah, will they then stay on for several tournaments in the States, or will they be flying backwards and forwards? Now, golf, whilst it's an individual sport, you obviously also have your caddy, and so some players, maybe the player will go, but the caddy won't, in which case I'll need to find a new caddy as well. So lots of questions there for the PGA as they start to head towards their resumption, which is looking to be on the 11th of June. Some sad news over in Japan, where a sumo wrestler has died of coronavirus. The 28-year-old sumo wrestler died on Wednesday of coronavirus, and he's the first person in their 20s to die of coronavirus in Japan. He had troubles, getting into to be tested initially, and that's he also tested negative initially, but then tested positive, but has basically looks like he's been suffering from coronavirus since April the 4th. And there looks like in his dojo there are a number of people there have now tested positive, so let's hope they all get better. Over in the UK, the Tour of Britain, which is a cycle race, has now been cancelled, but they will use the same route next year instead. With the women's with the women's tour and also the Tour de Yorkshire being cancelled, that means the only top major race in the UK will be Ride London Surrey Classic, that's scheduled to take place on the 16th of August now. And then finally, congratulations to Max Stoddart, a Kiwi from Southland, who has signed a basketball scholarship to go play in California. He's only 18, and he now has a scholarship to go play for Concordia University of Vaninium, whatever that is. Sorry, that last word. Sorry, in the second division, or the National College Athletics Association Division 2 over there. So all the best with his move over there. He's already played for the New Zealand under-17 team over in Australia. Sorry, over in Argentina, and then also in the FIBA Oceania Championships in New Caledonia as well. So clearly a man on the rise, and good luck with his career. That brings you up to date with all of the important sports news. Have a fantastic day, folks. We're looking at having our 2 p.m. interview is going to be with George Connier, the Northland head coach. And we have some great interviews lined up for next week, including the CEO of Snow Sports. That's interview that didn't go out earlier the week with Sean Callanan, the esports team owner, and also Rennie Ranger, the All Black, as well. All those interviews lined up for next week. So don't forget to like the page, and if you prefer to listen, then just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favourite podcatcher. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day. And catch you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for the morning sports briefing.